Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Community Dissection. Today, we are dissecting the Later community. If you are familiar with Later, it is a social media planning tool. And this dissection was nominated in the very official LinkedIn comments by Carolyn Zick. And I'm so pleased to have Carolyn with me today.
Hello, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And our second guest is David Dewald.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. All right. So let's dive in. So Carolyn, I know you wanted to share a little bit about like why you're a part of this community. So can you share like what made you want to dissect it in the first place?
Yeah,
and kind of how you got involved in it?
Oh, sure. So my background is social marketing, and I kind of came to community management and community building by way of that. So when Later, a tool that I use way too much of my screen time is on Later. When they launched their community, I was really excited to see it because I was starting to like be in that space of community management. So I was amped that they were doing it because it made sense to me. Like it was a really logical thing, like a user group community of social media managers and marketers that use the same tool. Like, duh, you should have a community. So I knew it existed for quite a while, having been an active user of the tool, and I never joined it until back in November. I posted a comment making a joke on their Instagram where they were talking about if you schedule several days in a row using the tool, confetti goes off. And they made a joke on one of their posts about like needing that praise, that like gold star, and like the confetti is that gold star. And I was like make a motion to add confetti after every single post that you schedule, something like that. And their social team messaged me and was like, this is such a great idea. Can you join our community and add it? Because they kind of do some of their ticketing and feature reporting within the community. And I was like, I really should have already been in the community. I was like, yeah, I'm also a community building nerd. So like, let me get in there, and like got in touch with I posted that, like, let's add more confetti. This is a super important feature. To either like turn it off entirely or to make more confetti happen, like frivolous, but posted that in there and then got in and engaged and got to meet part of their community team. And we had a fun little Zoom chat where I was like, please talk to me, which was cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because, I need more confetti
exactly
in this.
That's amazing. I think that's it seems so small, but to have like it really tells me that like the organization internally is very synced up, because often one of the main funnels into your community is through social media. But if your marketing team is not like either on board or super aware, doesn't have the information that they need, they don't know to look out for comments like that and say, hey, actually, this is a great thing to add to our community. So that's actually, I think, tells me that a lot of steps they got a lot of steps right to even get to that point.
And I mean, like they should, because like they're a social media tool. Like they should get the value of both community and social media if they're doing both.
Yes. Yep. They should.
Yeah.
So let's see.
And they did good by using social media to drive you to the community.
I know, which to me, like, being my background, I'm like, yeah, like that's gold star for them. They need confetti for that.
And that's like, if I can get my video editing on point before the end of this recording, maybe we'll have confetti every time.
I'm pretty sure you can add it in Canva. So
oh, great. Oh, that's good to know. Y'all are filled with the hacks. Okay, yay. Okay, so we'll take a look in a little bit about at Carolyn's account to see like what the member experience is like. For now, I want to explore it as a non-member. So I'm going to open this up and we'll just go through. I have a couple different tabs that I want to show you guys. And for this first part, we're really looking at like how easy is it to find the community? How easy is it to join? So we typed in Later community, but David also signed up as a member, and you had a different experience. Can you share how it
Yeah,
went?
because I'm total, like, I had no contact. I'm not real big into social media as far as within my work as a day-to-day work. We have another team that handles social media. So I didn't know it was for social media scheduling or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna be talking about the later community. And I'm like, later, it's such a, hey, that's a very common word and it makes it difficult. But you type in, and that's exactly what I did. At first I typed in later, and then I was like, okay, that's not getting me anywhere. Why wasn't I thinking? And then I typed in later community, and that got me there. But not knowing it was social media. If I typed in later social media, I probably hit it on the first try. But
Yes.
I was slow and said, later.
No, honestly, it's one of the things that kind of recurs on these episodes, that we feel kind of dumb sometimes looking for things but when we can't find something, we feel dumb. But I actually think that's like a huge red flag for the team leading things. Like, we are very intelligent people. So if we're having a hard time finding things, you might need to make some adjustment to make it a little bit easier for us. So definitely.
But I mean, they've done good. Like, you've typed in later the community, and the ad team has bought an ad so that it's placed top center, and it's, the SEO is good. Thank you, Koros. So later community comes up as like the first main link. They did a really good job there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Oh, and look, you have this whole chart on the side that's saying everything I just said.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, you get to see all my little widgets.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, so we click into later community. This is where it takes us. And we mentioned this right before we started recording. This community is hosted on Koros. So I'm excited to kind of click around and see how they leverage the platform.
One note is, the only note I would make on this page is the content is below the fold. It's good that they have these like trending topics, but I don't know if they're live or if this is just a GIF that's floating by. It does look like it was by. It looked like it highlighted when you went over it.
I think you can click on them, right?
Yeah, if that's good, if so, but the bulk of the content is down below.
Yes, you're right. That does take me to that. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's good. I mean, that at least lets you know what's going on. You have, just the title, you have no context.
Yeah.
Instagram Reels.
Go ahead.
It's good. It's good. I mean, at least there's that. But if you wanted to see what the latest discussion was, these are trending. Latest is down below, most recent.
Yeah.
And it has better context. So, up above it said Facebook admin and whatever. I wouldn't know the context. Larger calendar view. That's a feature. I get that. So, but learning to edit videos. Yeah. I would want that extra context of the first line of the post or the first couple sentences, but that's me thinking at it from a different perspective.
Well, I'm with you, David. I think what I would just amend with this is that they kind of have the three main call to actions up here: connect, learn, and exchange ideas. But then we move in, this just really only says ideas to me. Like, trending topics is ideas, but then community activity is also ideas. And it's not until I have to like click around. I had to do quite a bit of clicking to get to connect and learn a little bit easier. Like, ideas feels like so to me, this says that this was probably a product-led community approach. Like, they're wanting to connect the community to the product team, rather than like the customer success team or the customer support team or the marketing team. Like, I do think it's cross-functional the more that we dive into it, but it's heavily on the product side, which isn't bad, but it doesn't seem like they're making it easy to expand beyond just product for me as the user.
Yeah. And then, that's a great point, actually. And then my other question is, do we really believe there's 0 people online?
Yeah, that's interesting. I should be online because I'm logged in right now.
Yeah. Vanity metrics that we don't need. They could take that off and it'd be just as good.
Yeah.
Vanity metrics that shoot you in the foot because you're like, wait, there's no one online.
I'm online. Am I no one?
I'm logged in too. So
there's 2.
There's at least 2.
There's at least 2. Interesting. Later. Yeah, it's kind of funny because you like, these are the vanity metrics, but then when they backfire, it's a little.
That is funny.
That may be a
Oh.
chorus issue though. That we can't
Oh,
blame
We'll
yeah,
David
blame
for
we'll
that.
blame later. Okay. We'll tag the chorus team. So I was looking around for like, where's like an introduction space, or where's for the connect part, like where would you get started with that? And the first place that I came across introduce yourself. So I first clicked into welcome, and oh wait, did I click into? I'm pretty sure I did. Basically, the first place that I found introduce yourself was under social strategy. And
Right.
so, and then as I kept clicking, there were like under creators, there was another introduce yourself pin post, it looked like. This
Is
thread
it the same
pinned.
one by chance?
So I can't, okay, let's look.
Because
Oh
that's
yeah,
welcome.
okay, and welcome actually does, oh, okay, welcome actually does have this. So they're not the same because they're even posted by different people. So you have
Okay.
introduce yourself under welcome and introduce yourself in social strategy. So
Right.
it's almost makes me feel like these are small sub communities based on the thing that you're hoping to learn. Carolyn,
Yeah.
is that being a member of this? How?
Yeah, and that's kind of how it felt going in. And like when I was onboarded, like join the community, and you get those little automated little messages that pop up or show up in your inbox within the community platform. One of the things that I noticed was I was tagged into I believe the one that was posted by Tori. That was the one that I was referred to like come and introduce yourself, I think.
Okay.
And I also was a bit confused because I was like, yeah, introduce yourself here. I think I introduced myself in that one. I've introduced myself in several. So like, I know that because I was like, I did it once and then I like saw another one and I was like, oh, my post isn't in here. That's weird. So
Funny.
there are several, like there are silos that are almost like sub communities, but there's so much gray area where they cross
Yeah.
over. And like one of the things that initially was in there that I think they've kind of swapped out, because I don't really see it anymore in the top navigation, was later product pros. So they have like a certification program where you can go through and get trained on the product, like everybody does, which I've gone through. So I'm a later product pro, and that shows up next to my username. And there was like a separate place for that too, like where you could be like, I'm taking the class and like I'm learning so much, or whatever. The class was hosted elsewhere, but within the community you could share about that, like in the product pro section. But
I
don't
love
really
that.
I don't really
Oh,
use it anymore.
Yeah.
So
I don't mind the silos so much. The welcome messages all over the place kind of makes sense in this context where they're like, tell us about your brand, what are your pain points, as long as it, assuming that you're in social strategy, and then your responses are going to apply to social strategy. But it's one of those things where if it's the same. Oh, see, this is slightly different. That's good. There's some,
welcome. This is under the welcome side. Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me that there's silos. I probably wouldn't do welcome everywhere. I mean, I'm in a business community, a large B2B business community, and we have the same kind of silos based on our product lines, but we don't have welcome into each and every one of them. We have one main welcome in a common space, like their welcome section, introduce yourself, makes sense. And individual levels, maybe if they tailored it, as a welcome, or instead of a welcome, maybe what are your challenges? What challenges are you seeing? And then have that kind of be the thread, but this isn't bad. I'm no issues with this. It's good.
I love that, David. I would probably be a little bit harsher. It feels confusing to me, but I do agree. I think if you just modified it and said like this main welcome area is like the generic introduce yourself, and then just don't call it introduce yourself 16 times. Just say like, welcome to social strategy, get started here, set your goals. Welcome to creators.
What do you create?
Yeah, exactly. I really like that amendment that you mentioned.
You know what I was thinking? I'm looking at these things, I'm seeing like later community admin and later community, and I'm thinking this, I'm usually very against branding your community with a funky name, but this is one case where I might recommend it. because
Mm,
later
What
is
would you
such a
call it?
generic word.
What would you call
Well, if I knew that, they could pay me the big bucks, right?
it? Oh.
I don't know. But it's like there's later community manager. I get it. That makes sense. But I guess later is such a generic word for me. And I had that problem with Google. And I like to think I'm good with the Google foo, but it's one of those things. This could do with a good like connective name,
mhm.
I don't know what it would be later. I'd have to think about it a while.
Yeah, something in the I love a good like I like to keep it clear and keep it simple, but I also really respect good world building in community. So I think maybe part of it is just like the distaste for the brand name in general. Like we just want to see something else on there. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, hey, kudos to getting a 5-letter domain name, right? And
Right.
and it's for scheduling. It's a scheduling thing. So you're doing things later. I mean, I get it. It's a good brand name, but
Mhm.
And like their handle on social on a few different platforms is Later Media.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure you could play with something with that.
Yeah.
It's funny because like in the social world, like everyone knows what later is. Like people are like, yeah, I was using later. And you're like, yeah. Like to the point where it can become problematic in conversations. You're like, yeah, I scheduled that later. You're like, oh, cool, you use later. Like, no, I use Sprout. Like, oh.
I do. I have like a personal stuff that I use scheduling for. I use a completely different one.
Mhm.
That's at least it's a common word, but they've at least differentiated the spelling a little bit.
Okay. Is it
So, but
sprinkle?
no, it's radar.
Oh, okay.
RADAAR.
Yeah.
2 A's in the second part. And it's funny, like this duplicating scheduled post where they just need to change a picture.
Uh-huh.
I can do that all day long.
Yeah. And
Well, okay.
you
So
can do that.
What? It's if
that's
they're
one
acting on it. And it's got 120 upvotes. So
Well, you
it's
can
that's
released.
do that.
And it's released.
That's why I wanted to point out this one because I was clicking around in several of their ideas and a lot of them were like indicated as like not for now or like pending.
That's good
But
though.
this one was released, which I really, and yeah, clearly super popular. The only thing I never saw sometimes in these types of like product idea forums, you'll have once it is released, you'll get a comment from someone on the admin team saying like, hey, this released, here's where you find it, and like a little bit more. And that was one thing I didn't
Oh,
see on
In
this.
the
we
next
send swag.
I
Oh,
feel
you
like
know
we
what?
should,
Oh, maybe
because
there is. I'm just missed. I wish that there was that they could like pin that maybe
yeah,
because
Yeah.
should
um if I'm looking for it.
We
Yeah.
send swag to people. If they have a successful
Oh,
idea go
they're
through.
okay. So they're really good with swag.
Are
Because
they?
when I joined, they were like, hey, could you fill out a short survey for like the onboarding process? They're like, since you have community knowledge, like, would you be willing to do this? And they sent me swag from that. And then they asked if we could have a video interview and like chat through the experience as both like a community nerd and a social media nerd. And after that, it was like, we chatted for like, I think 45 minutes or something. And then after that, they sent another link of like, pick your swag. And they like, yeah, they're really good at incentivizing and like celebrating
That's
people.
good. That's good. I like that they have ideas in the community. I think that ideation is, if you talk about a community-led company, this is how you do it. This is one of the main pillars, ideas and ideation.
yeah. I really like that, Carolyn. I'm impressed. I love getting to have you on here and see like actually some of the like what I would call leadership development, like members who you're like, ooh, yes, this is our ideal member. And what I just also wanted to circle back to something that you said about the community pros, and I really wish that they still had that here because I think that tools like this that are posited to create a landscape, the community becomes a landscape to connect experts and beginners.
Yes.
And so when you have, especially like a tool like this, where you have social media, like people who like either work as freelancers to post or do social media strategy, this is an excellent like gathering place where they can show up really generously with their assistance and their support and their help, and they become experts in the space. but it also helps them long-term get like more business for and more clients for themselves. And I don't know if I'm assuming that's like how you used it as well.
So when I like two things about this that I thought were really awesome, the way that the later team, like their community and social team, obviously worked together really well, like we talked about. Two of the things that I thought were really smart that they did in that, and specifically dealing with me, but I'm assuming also with other people. One of their first things they talked about was after I was onboarded and stuff, they're like, hey, we want to connect you with leadership immediately. Like they weren't just like, poke around and see what you think and let us know and give us feedback. They're like, no, talk to us right away. And they made time for it, which was really, really cool. And then after that, once we had that conversation, it was really, really nice because they followed back up and were like, you're a pro, why isn't, make sure it gets on your profile, and like got that set up, which was great. But they identify people they want as mods, and they have a really good hand selection process for getting good quality mods in there that are from a variety of social like skill levels. So there's people who are freelancers, there's people who work, kind of a more corporate setting who are mods, but all of them have a level of expertise and product knowledge that their mods are amazing. Like I replied to someone's comment or like a question about something of like how I handled, I think it was about TikTok, like trending audios, right? If you have a business account on TikTok, your audios can get removed sometimes if you're using certain licensing, whatever. It's like an ongoing problem in the social media world. And I commented, what my workaround was and where I find creative, like Creative Commons music and things like that. And then one of their mods replied below me and was like, here's a way you can use later to do that as well. Like some of their features for pulling in trending audios or like media management for some of that stuff. So I was like absolutely floored with that, of how they have just, like that mentorship available.
Are the mods paid? How do they select, like what's the incentive structure for them?
When I talked to them back, I think in December, because that was something I was interested in, like figuring out how to become a mod, because like I'm a nerd and I love that stuff. I am not a moderator there, but they, at that point, it was kind of a volunteer, but like swag compensated or like beta testing things compensated. You know what I mean? Not great, right? Like it could be better.
Yeah.
But and I'm not gonna speak for them. It really, my just gut thing was like, they have it figured out and they know, and I think it will be paid in the future. Like I think that's what they're building towards.
Okay.
That's my hypotheses, not sponsored by Later.
You heard it here first, folks.
No, don't do
Just
that.
kidding.
But like for me as like a social media manager, the other thing that I think is huge is it's forward facing, it's Google searchable. Somebody was like, I have it pulled up on my screen. I can screen share if you want to see. This was something that I thought was so cool. So my stupid post about the confetti, like back in November, being like, I posted about this and like it's just, a stupid idea. One person upvoted it, and then I got a comment in January that said, thanks for posting this. I saw the confetti. This is like a new user, right? So they have the title community starter under their name. So they're new community member and a new Later user. It was like, I saw the confetti and wasn't sure why that happened. I missed the pop-up that told me why it happened. So I had to Google it and your response came up. So my response within the community came up. I was like, I screenshotted it. I sent it to the team. I was like, and then I made a snarky comment of like, it's showing up on Google. Where's this confetti setting? Like, being kind of a jerk about it in a nice way. But this, to me, I was like so amped because I'm like, okay, so even my posts within like the strategy board, theoretically, where I'm like, I own this company. These are my skill sets. I'm great at this, and I'm a product pro. I know Later. So to me, I mean, that bodes well for like that kind of promotion of your own brand.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's true.
That's awesome.
That's true.
And I actually, this is perfect because you were just, we actually, and David commented with your profile, and I have two profiles here. I really love, here's Carolyn's profile, love
Yep.
it, and Zuri. And I love this like really dynamic dashboard at the top. It feels, it's fun. It has like a cover image, but then it's dynamic and you can like see someone's badges.
Yeah,
Up
they have
here.
some there. It looks like they've got 5 up there as well. Yeah.
5 up there, and then you have the whole list down here. So I really, Koros, great job on making this customizable. I love this. I just, yeah, I love this personal profile. I think it's great.
The gamification, I have mixed feelings about, like getting the different badges.
Oh, tell us more.
I just in general, gamification of like, even if it's like a Discord server or whatever, sometimes it stresses me out. Like when they're like, you posted 2 times, here's a badge. I'm like, I just want to do the things, like just like I just want
that's really down to configuration. And you know, gamification is Pavlov's dogs, you know, it's we're rewarding you for the behavior we want, you know. So it makes you wonder how many times Pavlov thought about feeding his dog when he heard a bell ring.
Oh, wow, David just blowing our minds today.
I'm sorry.
Wow, David, it's still 8:30 a.m. over here. You can't hit me with the philosophy.
But I mean, so, you know, they could probably tweak it. You know, you should have some quick hits. Obviously, I just registered for the community today. I have 2 badges. All I did was log in.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, the 2 badges that I have are, I think I joined the community and I forget what the other one is, but I only needed 1 really, you know. And then it looks like they've got like a 5, 25, 50. So they're using something that's kind of doubles as it goes a little bit. And maybe they need to stretch that a little bit.
I do like, I will say, my very competitive nature. Like, this is funny. Like, I don't usually like gamification, but if it is going to be gamified, you tell me how many people have also earned this badge, so I know how elite I am. Like, I love that. Good job, Koros, for like making me petty.
Yeah.
Like,
you have those people that are point chasers. I mean,
yes.
So that's
I want to know.
It's good. It's good. Gamification is fine if it's done well. But to your point, if it comes off a little like, geez, I just breathed heavy and I got an award.
Yes,
Then
that's what I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's maybe needs some tweaking, but you know,
Well,
that's something you can post about. I mean, you know, not that they're going to listen to you. Hey, I think the way you do your community is wrong.
I mean, hopefully they're going to watch this, because I'm going to send it to them once it's public. Listen to us chatting about the later.
You know, I think 2 really tiny modifications that might be more in Koros's court than in the later court. I think something that could help with that feeling, because I understand wanting to give a badge to help people feel like they're making traction in the community. Like, oh, it's easy to like be recognized in this community and to feel seen. But I think what's you're trying to incentivize and motivate the person who is like, ooh, so like what's the next like badge? Like you want to give them some sort of vision of what to head towards. And that's the one thing that I do feel like is missing from these like standard platform gamification badge models, is they don't show the progression and the journey, and they don't always cast the vision of like, hey, you've already come this far. Here's your next step to shoot for. And so the journey progression is definitely missing. And even just a really slight like layout modification, and this is again to Koros more than to later, but I would rather have just like one login badge that like when it hits 10, it looks like this. When I hit 25, that badge just changes to 20, but like adding a whole new badge every time is just like kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, you
Like,
get those people that like to collect though. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You're both, it's both are good ways of doing it for sure. I mean, it just depends on the person. Giving you the option to select it might be the best way to do it.
Oh yeah. Because like for me, like I want to be like, okay, Carolyn knows what she's talking about with social strategy. So like social strategy SME or whatever. Like
yeah. So if this was a, you have a card view here. So maybe the other layout is more like a spreadsheet that has a bar chart, you know, that says kudos given, and then you've got like a line that says you're 8 kudos away from the next level.
Love that. Love that.
Carlos,
I love seeing the progression.
Yeah.
of your, yes. Oh, that's a great idea, David. I love that.
That's on Chorus though.
Yeah.
I hope they're listening.
We'll
We're
just
gonna
have to,
tag them. Mhm.
we'll have to submit our new ideas to the
Yeah.
Chorus community.
That's it.
So something else here, I saw this as like it seemed like this was a kind of ritual. What was confusing to me is like with this top bar, it's heavily like a forum type of community, it feels like. And I feel like there are and it sounds like there's a lot more going on behind the scenes with like leadership development, but the two other areas of like content and events, like conversation, this is like very heavy on conversation, but content and events, I don't see like facilitated here or even linked here. And I think there's so much opportunity to bring in people like yourself, Carolyn, who are like, hey, like I posted this thread on social strategy and it blew up and I had a ton of questions. Like, what if we did a follow-up Q&A or AMA? Let's bring in Carolyn and have her do an AMA for our community. Like, I think that's like a whole other element of community strategy that I'm not seeing here. And maybe I'm just missing it. Carolyn, do you know, like, you mentioned that there was a course too for pros. So there is content and learning happening.
Yep.
Maybe just in here.
Yeah, and the learning for pros is like I said, it's off the community, but I think there's a way to like really easily, like even if it's in the top nav, like become a later pro, like a later product pro, like, and that can route you over to the Teachable or whatever course program it was.
They should have a like a scroll of some kind on the homepage. It says later pros and just has a list or something that scrolls through them, you know.
Yeah, they have
that would be good. My question is how did you get to the TTYL?
The navigation is weird.
How did I get to TTYL? I honestly don't remember. Let's see what TTYL is.
Yeah, that's just forum posts. I think there's some like structural things that could change.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, I was like, how do you, I did a quick search, like how to do it. And I found a post that somebody said, is there a way to see all the boards?
Yes. Yeah, that is
2021.
What did they say? Was there a response on it?
There was a response. There's the community manager came in later and said, you can see our discussion boards listed on the top menu of the community. That would be those 5, I guess, 4, 6. If you're on a smaller screen, they can be tucked under the hamburger. And this was in 2021. So June of 2021, now. They only had 3 boards and they expanded later. But I would know from logging in and looking at everything, I wouldn't know how to get to the TTYL.
I don't know how to either as I'm like looking at it. I guess it must have popped up somewhere else. But
I like the weekly wins. That's kind of nice.
Right. I like this weekly rhythm and I liked
it stopped, it looks like.
Oh
yeah, they cut them out in
you're right.
2020, like a year ago.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh
right.
wait. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a year ago.
2022 would have been a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
it would have been good to keep those going. I think it would have been good to, I think that honestly, it should be 3 things. You know, what did you succeed in last week? What are you struggling with this week? And, you know, how's your week going? Just a check-in type thing. Something that says, it's a work out loud thing where you say, here's where I'm struggling. And maybe other people can say, oh, I struggle with that too. Here's what I did. And it starts a better conversation. So I have, this is just, you know, personal things that we do, you know, and try it because I tried it in my community and it didn't work. Nobody was interested in talking about where they were struggling or where they were succeeding. So,
well, what's interesting though, David, I want to make a note about that because all of this whole community is public. And so I think we're asking people, when you ask people to kind of get more vulnerable about that, they're essentially posting it to like the worldwide audience. And so I think having some recognized levels of like, you know, once someone is more invested and they're grappling with things beyond just like sometimes it just feels like you're shouting across like a huge auditorium to somebody in these forums and you're just like, hey, what was the hardest part of your week? Like, speak up, you know?
It doesn't have to be that. I mean, that's just a suggestion. Like, certainly if you go and say, is there something in the product you're struggling with, or are you trying to do something and you're just not sure how to get there?
Well, but I like that idea because I think that vulnerability is
Yeah.
actually like a foundation and like something that we need in order to build authentic relationship in the community.
Yeah.
I think it's just the structure limits people from, I wouldn't want to share that publicly. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and companies are like that too. I mean, at a
Google search.
broader scale, you know, they're very hesitant to put things out publicly. Oh, hey, you know, look at every time there's a data breach, we don't find out about it for months, right? Because they just don't want to put that information out there, even though here in the States, they're legally required to. So they take their time about it. They have to report it though. But yeah, you don't, what I think we kind of refer to it as airing your dirty laundry. You don't want to, you know, if you're purporting to be a social media pro and it's out there on the internet that you're struggling to be a social media pro, that's probably not a good look. So I understand that, but I mean, there's ways that you can couch it to where it's not like you're failing, but just you don't understand, and everybody's, you know, nobody knows everything. So it's okay to say I don't know or I don't understand and try to get help.
Yes. And I think one of the things that makes people more apt to do so and to show up in that way is to have like sections of the community that are more private. So I that would be one of my recommendations, is like to have
a hybrid where it's part of it's open, part of it's closed. I think that's I recommend that for everybody. It's just a community thing. You absolutely should, because there's just going to be, I mean, we do it in a way where we have carve outs groups that are specifically for a single individual customer that we can deal with in a very private way. And I've done that in multiple companies, so that they have a place in the community, but then when they talk, they know that we're listening and nobody else can see it, because that way you can kind of air the dirty laundry in a way that's very safe and protected. You know?
Yeah.
And that's a great idea, I think, for anything, because that also gives the that exclusivity and a little bit of the FOMO, because somebody will mention it outside of the private area. Oh, I saw your post. And they're like, what post? Where can I get this post? And you'll get those people wanting to sign up and find out.
Exactly. And if it's tied to that badge journey where they're like, you know, once you've reached this level of activity and engagement and you've supported this many people in the community, or you've created this many insights, then like we'll invite you to this like special place where you get to connect with some of our like top members. So, and maybe that is happening. It sounds like pros was a layer to it. Oh yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
Oh no, I was just saying, I don't think so. I mean, but like, also I haven't been super active in the community, so maybe it is, and I have no idea.
If they don't have a pros only area, I would be surprised.
They did for a minute, and it was like kind of like up in the top nav, like
once you made a pro,
like a separate, but it was, anyone could go and read it still. Like it was like, oh, here's the pros, like talking about the product from a pro standpoint, but it was like a little bit, I think like part of it was probably redundant, because it was like later pros just being like, add more confetti, right? Like it's happening in the other like ideas area, but it was, I think it's gone now, but I don't know.
I want to see the customer success team come in here. I love the product team having like a really big, like dominating force in the community, but like, I want the customer success team in here. Like, I want to see like the whole customer journey of how someone learns to use later, like integrated into the community. And I want to see the rock stars like Carolyn, who like speak the language and like are just these absolute experts coming alongside of other people, because they're incentivized to, like, either financially or because it gets them more exposure and more awareness or more recognition. I just think they have such a good foundation. And I'm like, there's such you can come alongside of the customer so much more in this space. And that's something that I would highly recommend.
Do they have a customer success team?
I have no idea.
I think it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know their whole structure, but like some of the people that I talked to had done some work in marketing, done some work in customer success, and we're kind of like, you know, community teams are a motley crew.
We are. So yeah, lots of different talents and skill sets mixed into one role.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, it's very possible that they don't have a strict customer success org. And if they don't, I mean, my company didn't until about a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
And that's something that we implemented to kind of smooth that journey into new customers and existing customers and just make sure they're well supported. But, beyond that, the support team can be more active because that's kind of very similar. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
but every community is different. So we don't know how they're organized internally. We don't know if they're a large company or a small company, or what stage of growth they're in. So maybe their structure doesn't support like a customer success business. I worked at a company where I worked under customer success, and then the chief customer success officer left the company and the silo disappeared. And I got shoved around to different departments until they said, we're just going to let you go. So,
Oh, yeah, there's so many. And that's actually an excellent segue into my next little spiel, because if anybody from Later or Koros is watching this, like, know that it's so easy for us to judge from our high and mighty thrones on this series. But
Yes.
ultimately, we understand there's so many layers and things that we don't see on the internal side. So take all of our thoughts with a spirit of curiosity and generosity and a huge grain of salt, because we don't get to see everything on the back end. But you guys, this was awesome. I'm ultimately, Carolyn, I'm so thankful that you reached out about this, because it's so fun to have someone who has been a community member. And also, like, I love how Later really fostered that relationship with you super early on. That tells me that they're doing a lot of things right to get you like into the community and activated. Do you guys have any final remarks or takeaways or noticings from the community you want to leave us with?
No, I think that they've overall done very well as a community. Navigation is a challenge. If you try to get some of the like the TTYL, that is something that I would improve. I'm sure Google gets around a lot of that. People just Google what they're looking for. But they should make the navigation a little easier. The goal is to get people to what they need fast. And if I have to move around to figure out where things are, then that's not fast. I'm probably going to stick around in the community because I do social stuff personally for myself on other projects, and I'm happily going to steal knowledge.
Great. Good to know.
I for one would love to see kind of like what you were talking about, Bri, is more activation of like the member to member interactions and the celebration of like just the pod of knowledge that's there.
Do they
And
have any events?
no, not that I'm aware of. Like if there are community events, like right, like Later has like product webinars or like the state of Instagram, like where they'll do stuff like that. And I think there is some crossover between members of their community and people they have as speakers or featured on their social media places, or they have a really active and excellent blog and articles presence on their website itself. That's where I send a ton of people to gain knowledge about social media.
Yeah.
Because they are so thorough and they have such great data backing their information, but that the crossover there isn't as obvious, right? There's not like, this article was written by this member of our community, here's where you join the community and pick their brain one-on-one. I think that's a great opportunity to leverage in the future.
Yeah. And I would also kind of expect a social media tool and platform to be prone to treating their community like their audience, because that is what they are trained to do as social media marketers. So it's not super surprising to me, but I think I just want to like push a little bit to like adopt the community-led approach, like focus more on your member to member connections and creating a landscape where these people are connecting rather than just another forum where you're hosting another audience.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, social media is very one to many, and community is very many to many, or at least it should be many to many. You want your people to be able to interact and engage and build those connections and build those bonds. And, the idea is that after a while, people by name in the community. So, and not just because they have some fancy bad axe name. I'm sorry, what?
Take it on me.
but I'm just saying, that's the goal, is that you're in there and you're having activity enough that people get to know each other. And if you can encourage those kinds of connections, I think that's going to help you in the long run. And, you have these pros. Why not have pros do a webinar and just say, and then, because that builds that connectivity, between members. And and when somebody, community management and community managers are so giving. I mean, I don't care who you talk to. If you ask them a question, they could be a direct competitor, but they'll sit down and talk to you and say, all right, where are you struggling? Let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. And, I think that is something that communities kind of adopt to, just because that's the nature of the people running it. Community managers be friendly. And if you can get them to start those interactions and start connecting, and then the community becomes more sticky, because then there's that personal connection. Hey, I wonder what Bob's posting about today. I wonder if Carolyn had a great campaign and she's talking about it and how it worked. I'd love to see that in, a webinar. I'd love to see a webinar where Carolyn goes through this thing that she did that was super amazing. I'd also love to see, somebody else go through and say, I tried this and it bombed. So let's talk about why it bombed.
Yes.
What went wrong. The thing about the thing about scheduling social media posts is the world continues to move while your post is waiting to go live. And if something in the world changes in a way that's going to make your post seem insensitive or off topic or inappropriate, then you've got to know how to get that and fix it before it sails. Because if it sails, it's going to be much harder to pull everything back. So I'd like to hear about the problems. I want to hear where you made mistakes.
Never happened, David. No one has ever done.
I want to hear a panelist of the pros and like their biggest like social media like fails and blunders. Like I know they're out, and we all know what that feels like to feel like on the verge of cancellation.
Oh yeah.
Like
I was telling that I had the whole organization just disappeared, that was supporting me. And so I limped along for a year, bouncing between support and marketing. And finally they just said, I don't think we're going to do community anymore. And that's a failure, because I didn't successfully sell it inside the company to the point where they're like, oh, we need this. It never got to that point. There were a lot of challenges that put that in front of me, that came directly from the company, things that I had to do based on what they said, but it failed and I failed. And, there was lots that I could have done to possibly improve that. But, in hindsight, I know what those things are, but in the moment, I'm like, I'm doing what I need to do, I think,
Right. We learn so much from even just the vulnerability of sharing our failures with each other. And I think they definitely have such an amazing, they're posited to be able to do that. I'm just like the tiny extra low hanging fruit, like just you're so close.
And so much of community management is failing though. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like, oh, we're going to do a content calendar and it doesn't get engagement. So it didn't work. So what do? All right.
Constant experimentation.
Always.
Yes.
And you could do something for a year and then suddenly it's like, I'm kind of bored with that. Nobody engages with it anymore. And you've got to change it up.
Or you tried something a year ago and it failed, and then you try it a year later and it like totally thrives. It's just, constant experimentation. Awesome. Well, you all, I feel full. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for such a dynamic conversation. Later, community, you have our blessings. Please do some events and call Carolyn.
We're David. He's your newest member.
But I am so social media dumb.
That's why they need to call you. They need to get the total noob experience.
That's it. And I use a completely different product. I'm sorry.
Hear from your competitor. No, someone using your competitor. There you go.
The real tea.
Well, you guys, thank you for joining. We hope to see you all on our next episode, and have a great rest of your week.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.